The topic of resilience has been an all-time favorite for me, both personally and when working with clients. I think the beauty of resiliency is that it's not something that we're inherently born with, but something that we all have and just haven't tapped into yet or haven't built the necessary skills needed to gain it. So before I get started, let me go ahead and introduce myself. Brother Harun just did a little bit of an introduction for me. Once again, my name is Walida Mukhtar. I'm a licensed social worker in the state of Maryland. And currently I'm serving as a Huda School social worker, alhamdulillah, for this year and inshallah for years to come. With that being said, we can go ahead and get started. Here is what we're gonna cover today. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what is resiliency. A lot of us hear about this term, but we don't understand what does it mean. What does resiliency provide us? Why is it so important for us to instill resilience in ourselves as well as our children, right? And what does it give us? Why is it necessary? Then we'll go into factors that contribute to resilience. Majority of the factors that we talk about when we talk about resiliency are not inherent. It's not something we're born with. It's a skill that we utilize over time and we become better at it. There are, however, some traits that are inherent within us, and we'll talk a little bit about those and the factors that contribute to resilience. Then we'll talk about how do we build resilience. Why we're all here at the end of the day is we want to know how can I be more resilient, particularly given in this climate and in life in general. It's going to benefit us either way. Then we'll wrap it up and see how we can use some of this knowledge and put it into action. Then inshallah, I'll open up for questions and answers. If you do have questions, please go ahead and type them in the Q&A and then I'll be able to see them inshallah. So let's go ahead and get started. What is resilience, right? Resilience, in essence, is the mental reservoir of strength that we are able to call on in the times of need to carry us through without falling apart. It's essentially our ability to cope with problems and setbacks, to look at problems and not necessarily see them as problems, but start thinking about how we're going to solve this. Dealing with uncomfortable situations or loss is an unavoidable part of life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that in the Quran. Life teaches us that we're always going to be dealt with tests. Allah tells us that. One of my favorite verses in Surah Baqarah where Allah gives us some things He will test us with, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that indeed I will test you مِنَ الْخَوْفِ with fear. A lot of us are going through this right now. I'm going to test you with fear and I'm going to test you with some hunger, right? خوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات. And I'm going to take some of what Allah is going to test us with and take away from us is our amwal, right? And our money and our fruits and the things we've worked for and lost. And we're going to experience all of this. And Allah says, وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Glad tidings to those who are patient, those who are able to handle these tests that they're given. Several other parts of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, do you say that you're going to believe and that, do they say that they're going to believe and that they won't be tested? Do they think that? Because this life is nothing but tests. Those before us were tested and we will also be tested. Right? So those are unavoidable parts of life. Throughout our life, we will experience varying degrees of difficulty. Some of these challenges are relatively minor, such as not getting into the top school you wanted, not being able to buy that house you've always envisioned yourself in, not having the lifestyle you desired, not getting the job the first time you interviewed. These are minor, and we sometimes can deal with these. But when they become bigger, such as more devastating, larger scale issues such as death, financial loss, traumatic experiences. How do we become resilient in the face of these life-changing, life-altering situations? And is it possible? That's what resiliency teaches us, that it is possible. It is possible to face these things and to come out stronger than you were before. So resiliency is how we deal, it's basically telling us that how we deal with these problems will play a significant role not only in the outcome, but also in terms of our psychological consequences, right? All of the problems we go through, they're gonna have some physical consequences. There's an excellent book I recommend all clients to get, which is called The Body Keeps the Score. The idea is that even if we believe that we can keep it together, our body is keeping a score of everything that happens to us. Similarly, psychologically, our body responds to stress. It responds to traumatic experiences. And even if we don't see it or we try to repress it, it's going to respond. Resiliency gives us the ability to be able to come out in a better form, inshallah. Those who are resilient, it doesn't mean that they don't fail. It doesn't mean that they don't feel despair. It doesn't mean that they don't feel grief. It just simply means that they use healthy coping strategies rather than unhealthy coping strategies. For example, such as substance abuse, drug use, any form of abuse, self-harm. They don't resort to these. Instead, they try to problem solve. That's what resilient people do. They face difficulties head on. So let's go to the next slide, inshallah. I love this quote. It's your reaction to adversity, not adversity itself, that determines your life story, how your life story will develop. So this is letting us know that we all will have adversity. We all will have issues. We'll all go through things. And it's not necessarily our issues or the struggles that we have that define us, but rather how we react to them, how we view these problems, that will define us in the end. So what does resiliency provide us? Why is it so big? Why is it a topic that so many experts, educators, mental health professionals are speaking about resiliency and this need for us to raise our children to be resilient? And the only way we can do that is if we display it ourselves. So resiliency, once again, doesn't eliminate stress or erase life's difficulties, right? People who possess this resilience don't see life through a rose-colored lenses. They go through struggles just like the rest of us. But the issue is that they understand that these setbacks happen and that sometimes life is hard and painful. That's number one. They understand that. The life is going to be hard. Life is going to have some bumps in the road. And there's a way to deal with all of these. They still experience emotional pain, grief, a sense of loss that comes with tragedy, right? They experience all of these, but their mental outlook allows them to work through such feelings and recover. And what I mean by that is the way they approach the problem, the way they view the problem, which we'll talk about a little bit later, that's what allows them to get through it. So resilience provides them that. It provides them a beautiful outlook into life. Even problems that some of us would feel like there's no beauty in this. What beauty do you see? What benefit is there in this problem? They find a way to problem solve it so that they see beauty in it all. Resiliency gives individuals the ability to problem solve and focus on what's important rather than ruminating on the problem and allowing it to cripple them. So they don't get stuck. They don't see the pandemic that we're going through right now and just completely crush themselves, right? They see and they look for the beauty in the little things. And sometimes it's hard to find that beauty, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So that's what it provides people. It gives them, you can say, kind of like a sunshine after the rain. It gives them that rainbow. It gives them the ability to focus, to be able to say, you know what, this is happening. Either I can let it take over my life or either I can control it. That's what resiliency or resilience provides us. Factors that contribute to resilience. I've already stated that majority of these are not inherent. We don't inherit them from our parents. It's not in our DNA. It's something that we build. So some individuals do come by abilities naturally. These are individuals with personality traits that allow them to be composed in the face of challenge. So those people who are more likely to be composed, calm, don't have as many anger outbursts, those people are more likely to have resilience versus those who are more likely to become angry, who when problems hit them aren't able to focus. So one of those is personality traits that's more inherent. The majority of them are not inherited, and according to many experts, resiliency is actually quite common, and people are very much capable of learning the skill. Some of the factors that assist us with it are, number one, family and friend support. Social support is another critical variable that contributes to resiliency. Mentally strong people often and always have family and friend support. They have people that they can lean on in times of need. So that's one of the things that contribute to resiliency, is the idea that if you have support, you are more likely to be resilient because you know people have your back. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again tells us believers, right, many times in the Quran again, the importance of brotherhood and sisterhood and supporting each other. One of my favorite verses in Surah Ali Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. All of you hold tight to this rope of Allah and do not disperse among yourself. Do not break apart from each other, right? And this is the idea that we're supporting each other, that if one of our brothers and sisters is in need, we all get together and congregate in order to help that person. So when it's our time that we are in need, people will do the same for us, bi'ithnillah. So building that unity, that friends, families, your community, your Islamic community, these are going to be huge in your ability to be resilient. The next thing, which is one of my favorite, is holding a positive view of themselves, their abilities, and the world. If you've been to my workshops, you know that I always say positivity breeds positivity, and negativity likewise breeds negativity. If you take in negativity or you surround yourself with negative people, you are more likely to become negative yourself. So your outlook on life is going to be negative. It could be the best situations in your life, and yet you will view it from a lens of negativity. So it's important through our lives that everything that comes our way, we have that good thought. Brother Safi did a lecture for us earlier this week in which he talked about the hadith where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, I am as my servant thinks I am, right? Or as he sees me. That's important with positivity. At the end, if we always believe, subhanAllah, that whatever my Lord has decreed for me, because I know him very well, because he's Al-Wadud, he is the loving, because he's Ar-Rahman, he is the merciful, I know this is the best for me. So regardless of the struggle I'm going through right now, I know Allah has something bigger and better and planned for me. And Allah is how we imagine him to be. So Allah will make it happen for us. So constantly reminding yourself, am I being negative right now? And if I am, how can I reframe this to a more positive outlook? That contributes heavily to resilience. If you have a negative disposition, you're going to have a hard time trying to be resilient in the face of trials and tribulations. Next is realistic plan and sticking to it, right? We have to come up with these plans that if plan A doesn't work out, here's plan B. Now, I'm not telling you let's plan A to Z. That's going to make your anxiety go up. It's going to make you frustrated and stressed. Come up with at least one to three plans, right? But if this one doesn't work out, this is the route that I'm going to try, and stick to it. That's what resilient people do, is that they have a plan. In case this doesn't work, here's another thing that I can do that inshallah will work better. They don't just go with the wind wherever it blows them, right? They have plans, and if things happen, they happen, alhamdulillah, and we plan accordingly from there. One of my other favorites is internal locus of control. We're finding that in this climate, a lot of us are trying to control things we have zero control over. So what I tell clients, my family, everyone is focus on the things you can control. You can control your emotions. You can control how you react. You can control how safe you are and your family is, but you cannot control other people, right? So we have this idea where we have to scream out at the rooftops, wear gloves, stop going out, stop hanging out at these places, but we can't control other people, and it's driving us crazy, right? It's making us literally go insane because we feel like, why aren't people listening? Again, can you control it? No, then it's not something you should be worried about, right? We can make dua, we can do all of that, but what is it that I can control? Can you control that schools are closed and now all of our beautiful children are home with us 24/7? MashaAllah. No, we can't, right? That decision was made. Now we have to figure out how we're going to function in spite of that. We're not going to just sit here and just say, oh, that's not fair. Why is the school closed? Why is this public school closed? This is not fair. I have to go to work. We can't do that. Internal locus of control. We have to figure out what we can control, and from there move forward, inshallah. Good communication. People who are resilient, or this helps them become more resilient, is that they're able to be assertive and communicate well. So when they feel some emotions, they're able to express that in the most assertive way possible. They don't beat around the bush. They're not aggressive. They're not passive. They're very much assertive, and they're very in touch with themselves that they can communicate that. I am frustrated right now. I really need a timeout, right? This and this is going on in my life, and that's why I've been a bit down. I'm going to do better, but I need you to understand why this has been happening. This is going to be huge in our marriages. Everybody is joking on social media about how this pandemic is going to be destroying marriages. It only will if we allow it to. Yes, we're in each other's face constantly. We're with our family. We kind of feel like we don't have any breathing space, right? How can we communicate that to each other? That I love you, and I appreciate you, and I value you, but I need some time for myself. One of my good friends, mashallah, said that they've worked out in their schedules that everybody in the family has at least 30 minutes to themselves each day. That's going to be important, but we have to communicate that this 30 minutes isn't because I don't love you or I'm annoyed with you, but I need that for myself. I was the person who was out working, going out with the kids, whatever that was, and now I'm cramped up in these four walls, and I have to be able to tolerate it and still show up for you. In order for me to do that, I need my time, and I need you to understand, right? Some of our most annoying habits are coming out. How do we communicate that to each other? And without being judgmental, of course, right? That I see that you're doing all of this, can we switch it to this? That's good communication, not blaming, not pointing the finger, not showcasing that, oh, you're like this, you're always like this, you've always been like this. We're not doing any of that. We're being very assertive and very compassionate and empathetic in the way that we are approaching our loved ones, because this is a hard time for all of us. And the only way we're going to get through this is together. They have a fighter mentality, right? They don't have the victim mentality that things are just happening to me and I have no control over it. But instead, they're like, this is happening and this is how I'm going to change it. This is how I'm going to fix this problem. So they don't feel like self-loathing or feeling pity for themselves or sorry for themselves. Instead, they're out there and they're fighting. And I don't mean physically fighting. We should all refrain from doing that, bi'idhnillah. But their mentality is that of a fighter, that I'm going to survive this, that I'm going to make it through this. Not that I'm going to crumble and my family is going to get destroyed and my marriage is going to be rocked. None of that. But we're going to make it through because number one, we love each other. And this is something we're going to do together. Yes, it's unfortunate right now that we have to do this, but we're going to make it through, inshallah. And we'll focus at the end on why it's maybe not unfortunate and it's actually good for us. They're emotionally intelligent, right? What I mean by that, subhanAllah, is that they're able to know their own emotions. They're in touch with themselves and their emotions, and they're also in touch with the emotions of those who are around them. They can sense when their spouse is a little bit irritated, when they need a break. So they offer, hey, why don't you go upstairs? I'll hang out with the kids for a little while. Or they sense when their children are getting aggravated, when this is becoming too much. And this is the area, subhanAllah, where a lot of us adults are recognizing this is hard for us, but we don't recognize that this is extremely difficult for our children. They had this normalcy of going to school, this structure, and all of that just in the blink of the eye, it's gone. Right? And now I have to be at home with these adults who control everything, and I have zero control over my life, but I just have to deal with it. So we have to also understand that our children are going to be extra frustrated. How do we help them with that? How do we help them cope with it? How do we get them to reframe their thoughts and to make this a positive thing for them? The only way we can do that is if we're emotionally intelligent first with ourselves, and we are able to recognize these are the feelings I'm feeling, these are the frustrations I'm having. So how can I first deal with mine? How can I journal? How can I get an outlet so that I can therefore help my spouse and help my children? The last one ties in with that emotional regulation. They're able to emotionally regulate themselves. When they get upset, we're not throwing things. We're not screaming. We're not name calling. We're not doing all of this. I'm able to say, hey, you know what, Ibrahim, I'm really frustrated right now, Mama. I'm going to step away. I need 30 minutes. I need a break for 30 minutes. And inshallah, when I come back, I can help you with your homework. But right now, Mommy's a little bit frustrated. It's okay to say that. And a child learns from that. Right there, you're teaching your child that when you're angry, when you're upset, when you're frustrated, vocalize it, then use a coping skill, whether that's walking away, whether that's saying, can I just go out in the backyard and play? Can I just get my book and can I read? Can I go in a corner where none of my siblings are just so I can get a break? We are showcasing to our children a healthy way to cope, coping mechanisms that are healthy for all of us. And this is something that we definitely all want to do. So now that we've covered what are some of the things that contribute to resiliency, let's focus on how can we become more resilient. This is actually going faster than I imagined, subhanAllah. So how do we build resiliency? Number one, we have to reframe our thoughts, right? Resilient people are able to look at negative situations realistically, but in a way that doesn't center on blame or brooding or ruminating over what they cannot change at the end of the day. They look at it realistically. Yes, we're going through a pandemic. Yes, everybody's working from home. Yes, my children are home for Allah knows how long. For all those who are in Virginia, they're home indefinitely until the fall. They look at them realistically, but they're not blaming. They're not blaming the school system. They're not blaming their spouse for not having a job that allows them to work outside. They're not blaming their spouse for dirty homes. They're not doing all of that. And they're also not ruminating or brooding over what they can't change, right? I can't keep focusing on the fact that all my kids are home. I can't keep focusing on the fact that my husband and I are now going to be spending 24 hours a day with each other until Allah knows best or until Allah relieves us of this, right? Instead, what are they doing? People who are resilient, who are able to reframe, instead they view adversity as insurmountable, right? They look at it as a way where they can get over this. It's a hurdle. It sucks right now, but we can get through this. That's their mindset. They focus on looking for small ways that they can tackle the problem and make changes that will help. Focusing on positive things can get us out of that negative mindset, right? Here's a hurdle. Here's some things that we have to do. So we all have to be home. How can I create a space for everybody so everybody can learn or either work from home and we're not aggravating each other? We're not frustrated with each other. How can I create a structure or a schedule so that structure is still maintained for our children and still maintained for us so that we can go put them to bed at their regular time so that we have time for ourselves? That's going to be huge. So as parents, we're going to have our kids for a very long time, it appears like, right? So how can I still keep that structure for them so that by 8 o'clock, 7:30, 9:30, whatever the time is, if you have older children, that we're still putting them down or they're going to their room so that we can have time, right? And for those with younger children, that even looks like, subhanAllah, how can we switch off where one day you're putting them to bed and I can have my free time, and one day I'm putting them to bed or I'm doing the bedtime routines? We're reframing our thoughts instead of focusing on the negatives. So once again, key thing, we're reframing that this could possibly be a good thing for us. And in the next slide, inshallah, we'll cover a little bit of how we can do that. So number one, we reframe our thoughts in life, period. When bad things happen to us, when unfortunate, difficult things happen to us, how can we change that mindset? Because everything is about how we internalize it, right? That showcases our behavior, our actions, and all of that. So if I can change it in my mind to make it appear as if it's the best thing, or look at it from a strength perspective, that this is a good strength for us, this is something that we needed, then I can change my behavior. Then I can change how I'm thinking about it, bi'ithnillah. The next thing is seeking support. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, that people who are resilient, the number one thing is that they have support. They have family support, they have friends support, they have all of that. So having people you can trust and confide in is important for building resiliency. Talking about difficulties that you're coping with doesn't make them go away, but it helps. It relieves that pressure that, hey, I'm going through this. And to have a friend, I had a conversation with one of my good friends the other day for about an hour or so. And just hearing that she's struggling, I'm struggling, we're all struggling, but we're doing it. That we're still able to end the conversation with, hey, these are some good positive things that are coming out of this. Inshallah, it'll end. But that's support, that I have someone there to talk to discuss things through, to possibly get some insight on how are you dealing with this? How are you dealing with some of the marital issues that are happening with you and your husband? How are you dealing with some of the issues with your children, right? Our children who are very social, this is hard for them. I'm a social individual. So for us extroverts, this is extremely difficult for us. How do I stay home? How do I get my energy? I was just telling a mom's group that I'm in that were excited about this workshop, that for me, this is hard because I love presenting in front of people because I get energy from that. So being behind a screen right now, for all of you who've been to my workshops, you know my workshops go over. And right now, subhanAllah, it looks like I'll probably be done before the hour mark. So how are we helping each other? How are we helping our children who are introverts and look for that time alone to themselves? And now here's the whole family in front of their face, right? How are we helping our spouses who need that time away from children because maybe they're teachers all day, they're dealing with kids. And now here I am and I have to deal with my own kids. How are we helping each other? How are we getting that support? So this is the time we lean in and we not only are seeking support, but we're giving support. How am I checking on my friends? You know, I have my friends who are just married for the first year. These are the populations that I constantly keep thinking about that must be struggling, right? The first year or two of marriage is very hard. Am I texting to just say, hey, thinking about you guys. I hope everything is well. Let me know if you need anything. The people who have babies, who are first-time parents, this is a struggle. They can't go out. People with multiple children who are stuck in a house, how are they tolerating this? So seek support, but also offering that support is part of being able to build resilience. That I'm helping others and I'm also being helped as well too. So we have to be able to be vulnerable with each other. Being vulnerable is a beautiful thing. A lot of us attribute it with a lot of negativity. But when I'm able to say like, I'm struggling, then I can get the help I want. But if I put on this facade that everything is going well, then that's a whole different story. Once again, I'm not saying call everybody and tell them your marital issues and how annoying your children are. That's not necessary, but just saying this is hard. This is hardcore. I didn't think it was going to be this hard. We've all been asking for snow days and now we've gotten a long time. It might not be snow, but we can't even go outside, right? I didn't think it was going to be like this. I imagined it to be fun. I imagined it to be something exciting, but here we are. So seek support and don't be afraid to be vulnerable and say, I'm struggling. Don't put on this facade that everything is great. It's good to say alhamdulillah, but to just say I'm struggling, but here's the ways I'm coping with this. The last one is, once again, focusing on what we can control. When faced with a crisis or problem, it can be easy for us to get overwhelmed by things, right? And to feel like this is driving us crazy. How do I deal with this? How do I function with all of this? Instead of wishing that there was some way you could go back or change, or maybe if we would have, a lot of things I'm hearing is maybe if we would have done better things in the beginning, in terms of our government, of course, this wouldn't be happening. But in reality, قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ, whatever is meant to happen is going to happen. So even if we could go back, the same thing would most likely happen again. So how can I change my focus to what I can control? So we can try on focusing things that are in our control. It's here. We can't go back. We can undo. How do I move forward from this? How can I first assist the nation, the world, in being able to not spread this by social distancing, by staying home, by being proactive? How can I help my family? How can we help each other? That's going to be important for us. Even when the situation seems dire, you know, taking realistic steps to help improve the situation, however small these steps are. So if it just means that you're, once again, like I shared my friend who everybody has 30 minutes, that's small. It's nothing big. but you can see the impact they'll have on your family. If everybody just gets 30 minutes to themselves away from everybody else, it's going to be a benefit, bi'idhnillah. So we have to focus on what we can control and stop looking at everything else. In this part, I'll also say social media isn't helping. Our 1,000 WhatsApp doctors are not helping. All of our conspiracy theorists are not helping. You can have group chats where it's just jokes and things like that. That's fine. But when we're getting into this sending links to each other about how many people are dying and it's not really even factual, and we're talking about all these negative things, I have to ask, where's the positivity in it, right? So that's why I appreciate my friends who sometimes will send a joke, something that lightens up the mood, that makes us feel better, right? But when we're constantly looking, and I have individuals in my life who are like this, who are always looking for that negative thing. Look how many people are dying. The world is over. This is happening. How does that impact us psychologically? Then how does that impact us behaviorally? How are we going to start behaving? How are we going to be with our family members if I'm already down and I feel like everything sucks and life is going to be over? I'm going to project that onto my family. I'm going to project that onto my children, and it's not fair. Right? And I say it's not fair because, once again, children don't have control over where they're going to be, who they're going to interact with, how dysfunctional their house is. They don't get control over all of that. They can't walk out if they want, for majority of our children. So we have to realize how some of these things that we are taking in is going to impact our children because we come to them with that stuff. How many of our children are already building so many anxieties from this, right? I have children who are so nervous, who are constantly like, I'm going to die, washing their hands a million times. Washing hands is great, but we have to think about how are we making our children feel in these times? Are we building their anxiety? Or are we helping teach them coping skills? That's going to be the determining factor for every parent. Am I going to help push anxiety onto my children? Or am I going to teach them that, hey, this sucks, but let's enjoy life, right? And I'm going to praise the parents who are still enjoying their kids, who are making light of this, who are coming up with activities to do with them to let them know that this is life, but we have to move beyond this. And for a lot of us parents now, we were children when 9/11 happened. Think about how our parents raised us, and did we get some anxieties from that? Or were our parents those who were like, hey, qaddarullah, this is something that's happened. It's going to be a bit hard, particularly for us Muslims, but this is how we're going to survive this. Right? I still need you to go to school. I still need you to be functional. I still need you to pay attention to your academics and enjoy life and laugh with your siblings. That's going to be huge for this generation. And it's unfortunate that this happened during their time, but may Allah make this a means of strength for them, that they're going to be individuals that are not so anxious, that realize the bad things are going to happen. But this is how my parents coped with it. This big pandemic happened, and I saw them cope with it this way. And these are the skills that I learned from my parents, bi'idhnillah. So how can we turn knowledge into action? So thinking about, it was not necessarily difficult to do this slide, but thinking about what are some of the great things we can learn from what's going on in our climate right now. So in terms of reframing our thoughts, how can we reframe it to think, you know what, this is an opportunity to slow down and focus on worship. A lot of us often say, if I didn't have to work, I would fast more. If I didn't have to work, I could wake up and pray qiyam. If I didn't have to get the kids ready, I can focus on my fajr, right? These are the times, subhanAllah, Allah is giving us an opportunity, particularly right before Ramadan, to slow things down. Slow down and focus on our worship. Focus back on Allah. Think about how we can even help in just supplicating. Another thing is an opportunity to engage with our families and reconnect. So many of us have been so disconnected. Yes, we live together. Yes, we're in a household together. But do we even know each other? We're so busy that life has taken us in so many ways that we wake up, we get the kids ready, everybody gets ready for work, everybody's out the door. When we come back home, everybody has to do homework, then it's time for bed. This has become our life. This is the time to sit with our family and get to know our children. Who are you beyond being my child? What do you love? What are your fears? What is going on with school? Where do you want to be? How's your relationship with Allah? How can we become better connected with each other, right? This is the time to engage with our families. It's not the time to fight with our families. One of the things, inshallah, I'm going to do another workshop is how can we engage our families? This is the time to use the evenings to do board games, to play card games, to, if you're into watching certain movies with your children that are appropriate, of course, using that time to do that. And then discussing that, having family discussions. If you have teenagers, bring up a topic, right? Let's talk about it. What's your viewpoints on this? Help me understand. Let's reconnect. That's going to be huge for us. And then this is a blessing that we get to spend this much time as a working mom. For me, I view this as a blessing. Yes, it's a struggle. I will totally say that, but I've gotten to spend so much time with my kids. And one of the greatest opportunities is I have a young one who doesn't go to school with us and usually goes to stay with my mom. And it's been, subhanAllah, such a rahmah just spending time with him and him just seeing the happiness when he sees that we're not leaving today. We're all still here together. It's an opportunity to sit with ourselves and develop. A lot of us enjoy the hustle and bustle of life because then we are busy and we can't sit with our own issues. This is a great time, and the therapist in me says this, for us to sit and work through our own personal issues. Where am I at? What am I struggling with? Perfect time to journal our thoughts, our behaviors, the things that are going on in our lives, right? To calm down. Mindfulness is a huge thing. This is a great opportunity to be mindful of the things we do. And even for myself, I'm realizing some of my character flaws, some of the things that I'm used to, and I'll share, subhanAllah, I never mind sharing about myself, is that I tend to be bossy. And that's not working in this atmosphere where everybody's home all the time. It's easy to do so when everybody's busy and I can plan everything for people. But when I'm not planning and I'm not running around, who am I? Who am I outside of everything else that I do on the day-to-day basis? It's an opportunity for us to organize our lives and declutter. A lot of us, our houses, subhanAllah, Allah only knows best how they look. How can we declutter and create more space? How can we throw out what's not necessary, donate what we can donate? How can we get together and fix everything up within our house? So bi'idhnillah, when we do go back to work, our lives seem a little bit easier for us because everything is already organized and we have good structure. Last but not least, and when it comes to reframing thoughts, is the opportunity to recognize what and who is truly important. When we're busy with life, work is important. And I'm not saying it's not. Work is important. Our kids' education is important. Getting to their activities on time is important. But what I've realized, subhanAllah, in the past couple of weeks is that none of those things are really necessary, that I don't need to put my kids in 50 activities, right? The spending time with them and just being with them is what's important. Telling them that I love them and being able to hug them, not running from sport to sport or activity to activity, and just being able to sit in the bed with them and read them a book. That's what's important. Getting to ask them questions and get to know more about them. That's what's important. Spending time with my spouse and realizing that, subhanAllah, since we've had kids, we've been so busy with them that we haven't had time for ourselves. That's important. Checking in on my mother, who I don't usually get to do because I'm always constantly working like many of us, or being a parent. Just checking in on my mom and calling her regularly, like, how are you? Are you okay? Do you need anything? Can we drop off groceries? We are going to recognize within the coming up weeks what was really important and what we could have put on hold. So we have to reframe our thoughts, that there's some positivity coming out of this. And one of the positive things that all of us have been sharing, of course, is our environment. This has been extremely good for our environment. If you're into the environment, then you know all the concerns we've all been having recently. And alhamdulillah, this is a blessing in disguise that Allah has given us. Seek out support. This is an opportunity to deeply, seek out in supplication, to pray to Allah, to alleviate the stress that we're going through, to make everything okay for us, to keep our hearts safe and give us peace. This is a perfect time. And subhanAllah, we know when it comes to supplication, there's only 3 things that happen, right? SubhanAllah, Allah answers them. Allah changes qadr. So something bad that was going to happen to us, Allah alleviates that in the way of the dua that we made, or Allah saves it for us on the day of judgment as good deeds. So it's a win-win situation for us. So this is the perfect time to say, Ya Allah, I am struggling. I never knew all of these issues were going on in my family or in my life or with myself. Ya Allah, please protect me. Fix my family for me. Fix my marriage for me. Fix my children for me. You are capable of doing anything. This is the perfect time for us to seek support from the one who can change all of our affairs, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next is the opportunity to showcase vulnerability and human connection. It's the opportunity for all of us to get off of this social media high where everything is perfect and show that I'm struggling. This has been a couple of hard weeks for me. And subhanAllah, I don't know if everybody has noticed, but we've had so many deaths, not related necessarily to this pandemic, but just in general, right? A lot of people are struggling, families are struggling. And it's okay for us to say, this has been hard, how can I help you? Or this has been hard, this is what I need for my community right now. And it's okay to reach out and to be vulnerable with each other. And for human connection, we've all had this false social media, WhatsApp connections, but actual connections, let's FaceTime, let's talk to each other. Let's talk about more than what seems to be good in our lives, what we are struggling with, right? Last but not least is the opportunity to be a helper. So many people are in need of help. You see the post that Dar-us-Salaam has put out for Ansarul Bir, may Allah be pleased with them and everything that they're doing. Join it. Help in whatever way you can. And one of my colleagues, who's also a relative, mentioned, subhanAllah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasul alayhi salatu told us that Allah is aiding whoever is aiding his brother or sister. So do you need help? Do you need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to move some miracles in your life? Aid other people and you will see this happen in your own life. That miracles will happen in your life. Make a dua for others so that the angels might say Ameen for your dua as well too. Let's all help each other. Let's all be helpers. Let's be able to turn to our neighbors, Muslim, non-Muslim. It doesn't matter at this point. We all need help, and the only way we're going to get through this is together, bi-idhnillah. Focusing on what we can control. It's an opportunity to humble ourselves and realize we can't control much, right? We've all had this idea that I can control this and I can do this way. No, at the end of the day, if Allah says be, it will be, and there's nothing any of us can do about it. So we have to learn to humble ourselves and turn to the being who is capable of making anything happen, anything, and know that I can make the most money. I can be the most intelligent. At the end of the day, I have literally almost no control over other individuals in the world. And the only control I have is over myself. And even that is limited when we speak about Allah subhanAllah. It's the opportunity to seek out growth advancement, right? A lot of us have been stuck at dead-end jobs or have been stuck in these bad relationships, whether with friends or with family or any of that. It's time to look at how can I grow? I've been in this situation. How can I become better? Right? Okay, this job that I have is great, but what if something bad happens? I need another plan. It's time for us to look at what we can control and use all of the extra energy we have and the time we have in personal growth. Last but not least, the opportunity to seek financial freedom. This has been huge for me, that for me, at least personally, and I know many people can also relate to this, is that we've spent and not realized that none of these things were needed or necessary. So now is the time to really focus on, did we need to go out for ice cream that day? Did we really need to go out to do this? No, we could save that money. We can help somebody else, right? Seeking financial freedom by saving more rather than constantly spending and going out. We can't go out right now. If you're being smart, you're not going out at the end of the day. Use that and save. Every time you have this desire to go out or go do something, save or give in the way of Allah by helping others who are not as fortunate, right? If you still have a job and you have food in your house and you have a house to live in, we are among the fortunate with what's going on in this society right now. Help others if you can do that, bi-idhnillah. And these are just some things that I've come up with. If I opened up for everybody, I know many of you would have different ways of reframing our thoughts, seeking out support, and focusing on what we can control. Before I get to question and answer, this is an ayah that, subhanAllah, I love beyond words, subhanAllah. And the reason for it is, it just shows how Allah is with us at all times. We all know the story of Musa alayhi salam, and when him and Bani Israel were escaping Fir'aun, and on one side here's Fir'aun and his huge army, and on the other side is the Nile, and they're stuck and they don't know what to do. And the people that are with Musa start saying, indeed, we are destroyed. This is it for us. And instead, Musa alayhi salam, with the wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him, he says, Kalla inna ma'iya rabbi sayahdeen. No, indeed, with me is my Lord, and he will guide me. Let's keep this in mind when we feel like we are in despair, when we feel like we cannot continue anymore, when we feel like every odd is against us, that indeed, no, Kalla inna ma'iya rabbi sayahdeen. No, indeed, with me is my Lord, and he will guide me to that which is best. I'm going to go ahead and inshallah open up for Q&A. We have a couple of questions, not too many. So if you have any questions, this would be the perfect time to ask them. SubhanAllah. How can we encourage resilience when someone has suicidal ideation? This is an extremely difficult thing to do. If you are not a mental health professional in this situation, I would highly, highly recommend that you get that person in touch with a mental health professional. Suicidal ideation is nothing to joke with. It is not something that we take lightly. If anybody that you know or that you love, you believe has suicidal ideation, please ask straightforward. Ask, are you suicidal? Are you thinking about harming yourself? Unfortunately, in our society, we have this assumption that if you ask and it makes the person think about it. Research shows that's contrary to popular belief. If you ask, it actually helps the individual. So if you feel that this person has some self-harming behaviors or is suicidal, please go out and ask. Straightforward, are you thinking about harming yourself? Are you thinking about killing yourself? Do you have means to do this? Do you have a plan? Please get them the help. Do not be afraid if you do not know any mental health professionals to even call 911 if you need to. Saving a person's life is huge. And as we know, subhanAllah, in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that if you save one person's life, it's as if you saved all of mankind. Get them help. There's not necessarily a way that I would say you can build resiliency in this person. First and foremost, we need to handle the biggest thing, which is the suicidal ideation. Then and only then can we deal with the resiliency piece. Jazakumullahu khair, and I hope that answered your question. With the slides will the slides and recording be available? Bi-iznillah, I hope this is it is being recorded, I'm assuming, and inshallah we'll be able to share. If not, we can do something similar again once school opens back up, inshallah. Another one, what advice do you have for someone who doesn't have family or not much support? SubhanAllah. This is when I would lean on friends. This is when I would lean on friends and seek out their support. And if you don't have family, then this is important when we have to create that Muslim family. Sometimes our biological family isn't just the only family we have. Our community, for me, my family, my biological family is a huge support, but my Dar-us-Salaam family is a huge support for me. The individuals I work with, the individuals that I'm at school with all the time, those are the people who are checking in, calling, asking, do we need anything? May Allah reward them. So these are the family and the support that we need to seek out. If you don't feel like you have any of that, contact Ansar al-Bir. If you need anything, Dar-us-Salaam has been huge in Ansar al-Bir in helping so many community members. So that's what I would definitely say. Beyond all of that, if you still have nobody else to contact, a lot of dua, journaling, and just constantly telling yourself that this is a test, and bi-idhnillah, you will get through this. Just like all of us, and after we get through this and we're able to go back and connect with human beings on a face-to-face level, then inshallah you can build that support. If you're not a Dar-us-Salaam community member, I invite you, please come. It's a beautiful place, and inshallah we are a family there, in my opinion. How do you stay calm when you're facing homelessness from unemployment caused by this pandemic? That's a real question, and that's a real struggle a lot of our families and individuals are having right now. Not necessarily calm, but what we can do is we can focus. Us internalizing this and thinking about it negatively, it is a negative situation. I get that doesn't help. So how can we use the energy that we have to think about other ways that we can get out of this? For example, unemployment. If you are unemployed, you can apply for unemployment. If you still need that financial assistance, many of our masajids, once again, I don't mean to constantly keep giving Dar-us-Salaam as an example, but this is an organization that I truly believe in, and I've seen with my own hands. May Allah be pleased with them. Give back to the community. Reach out to Ansar al-Bir, reach out to Dar-us-Salaam, reach out to these other masajids. SubhanAllah, Maryland, one of the things, I live in Virginia, that I love is that it's a very giving Muslim community there. MashaAllah, la quwwata illa billah. Reach out to people, and inshallah we can all help each other. If we know people who are homeless in this situation and we have extra space in our house, and once again we vet the whole process, I would highly recommend that we help each other. We're all going to need it in this time and as this pandemic continues. Is resiliency measurable, and how can one assess their level of resiliency? Resiliency necessarily isn't measurable. There's no way of being able to measure it, but you can assess it by seeing when difficult things come in your life, how do you react? What's your first reaction? Beyond, of course, we know Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, when his last child died, Ibrahim, he said, and I'm of course not quoting it all correctly, please do forgive me for that, but the eyes tear, the heart feels sadness, but the tongue does nothing but praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That's part of resiliency. We are humans. We're allowed to feel those emotions. We're going to be hurt. I am not telling you not to feel hurt. I'm not telling you to sit with your emotions. Allow yourself to do that. That's healthy. But plan beyond that. What else can I do beyond that? Now I've sat with my emotions. I've allowed myself to cry it out. I've allowed myself to feel it all. Now what's my game plan? That's resiliency. That's our level of resiliency. How do I bounce back from this? Or am I ruminating and being stuck in the problem or in the issue that we are having? I hope that answers your question. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah. I love the job and deal with information overload. How do you deal with information overload during telework due to COVID-19? You have to select for yourself, how do I only get the information that is necessary for me? Even with work, what emails are necessary, what emails are extra right now? Because being on the screen isn't healthy for us. Contrary to popular belief, we need to spend more time off of the screen. And unfortunately, this is something that we can't do right now. So decide for yourself what's most important. I've put mutes on some of my WhatsApp groups. I don't need to hear from every single one. And I don't need to answer it every minute because I'm that type of person. If I get an email, I want to respond immediately. If I get a text, I want to respond immediately. But I've learned that that's not healthy for me. And part of my coping mechanism is let it go. What I do need to respond to, I will respond to. What is important, I will reply to. But other than that, I need to prioritize my health and my well-being over all else. We don't need to be in all of these groups and all of these chats that constantly keep reminding us of this pandemic. It is sometimes healthy to walk away from that and to try to live a normal life based off of what we can, right? Now, I'm not telling you go out to the beaches and enjoy life. No, we can't do that right now. But based on what we have, try to live a normal life. So decide for yourself and prioritize what's important, what's not important. What do I need right now and what is not necessary? Inshallah, I'll be doing a coping with anxiety, and that will be answering a lot of this information overload and what do we listen to versus what we don't listen to. How to unfriend toxic and negative people right away. That's difficult. Once again, if it's family, you have to look into the Sharia on how are we supposed to unfriend our family members, unfamily, I guess, I don't know what the term would be, or walk away from our toxic family members. That's not my area. That's something definitely I would say speak to Brother Safi or any imams within your areas. But in terms of toxic friends, once again, we have, in regards to the Sharia, there's no recommendation in having to be friends with people who are toxic for us. Family is a bit different because we have to keep the ties of the womb, right? And kinship and all of that. But for friends, if you realize that this person is not good, number one, for your Islam, for your well-being, for your mental well-being and all of that, that's when, once again, you have to prioritize your health, your mind, your sanity, and realize that you don't need this person in your life. How do we do that? The easiest way is just cold turkey. Sometimes that's hard for all of us. So little by little, just trying to, whether on social media, it's not necessarily unfollowing them, but making sure that their stuff doesn't pop up. If they send you text messages, either putting it on mute through WhatsApp or whatever the means might be. If you don't mind just walking away from this person, just letting them know that, listen, I care about you and I love you if this is the case, but I need to love you from far because you and I are not good for each other. And that's the case for some of our friendships and our lives, is that we're not good for each other. So I need to love you from far. If you ever need anything, I am here for you, but we are unhealthy for each other. Jazakumullahu khairan, may Allah bless you and your family. Ameen, all of us, bi'idhnillah. What if you don't have many friends because everyone is married? Very good question. I hope friends who are married still stay friends with friends who are not married. Marriage shouldn't be the determining factor of who we're friends with. I really don't understand that piece. But if you don't have many friends and your friends have isolated you because they are married, then I would seek out more friends. There are many people in the world who are looking for human connection. Once again, once this pandemic is over, going to places where with like-minded people. So if you're bi'ithnillah going to the masajids, in your schools, in your MSAs, finding people that are like-minded like you and hanging out with those people. Once again, a factor of friendship shouldn't be whether the person is married or not. I'm not getting that piece. But if that's happening to you, I'm sorry that that's the case. But maybe trying to find other friends, inshallah. Thank you so much for this wonderful. Inshallah, the slides I'm praying are going to be shared. In my previous workshops, I'll try to work with admin, inshallah, to see if we can put the presentations out. I am sure they weren't recorded, and if they were recorded, I probably didn't approve of them being shared. But the slides, inshallah, I'll see if we can put them out once again. But I do encourage you. Dar-us-Salaam does all my workshops for free. Everybody is welcome. Please do come, unless it specifies for students only or for parents only. It is open for everybody. So once again, once we get back to our normal lives, inshallah, I do encourage you all to come join. I can't seem to get motivated or do anything productive physically. I can listen to videos, interact via text, or work virtually. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding that much, but if you're not motivated, then that's when we have to figure out and find something that motivates us, right? Even if it's little by little every day. So I'm understanding that physically you don't want to get up or do anything. But once again, when you go to mental health professionals, we tell you a lot of the work is going to be on you, and a lot of it is going to be some uncomfortable work. So if you realize, mashallah, you're already realizing what the issue is that you're not motivated to be productive physically, then get up every day and try to force yourself to go out and walk around your house. The first day it might just be a walk. The next day, and this is something that I'm trying to get myself to do because it's easy to get comfortable and just sitting, right? And now that we can't go out as much, we're doing that. But you are allowed to go out around your house. You are allowed to go to the nature trails around your house and walk around those areas. So I would make intentional effort to get up and do something every single day, whether that's just get up, take a shower, go downstairs and do something physical, whether that's yoga or exercise video or something of that sort. I know Aqaba Karate is also going to be doing some live videos and things like that. Just being able to do those and put away the computers and the phones and all of that. We're all going to end up having a lot of addiction issues with the screen time unless we are intentional and conscious and make an effort not to be on these things. Bi-idhnillah. A lot of women distance themselves from friends when they marry. What if you don't have people left to turn to? I think that's similar to the last question. Once again, I am sorry that your friends are distancing themselves from you if they get married, but there are a lot of single sisters who wouldn't mind being your friend, bi-idhnillah. So seeking out those friends and seeking out friends who, inshallah, are real friends that don't leave us out even when we do get married or our different statuses change as becoming parents or getting married or moving away, that we're friends in spite of all those new beautiful things that come into our lives. Would you recommend any books on resilience or positivity? SubhanAllah, that's an excellent question. Books on positivity. First of all, there's Umar Sulaiman has a book called The Dua of, or The Supplication of the Pious. I highly recommend that book. In terms of resiliency, any of Brene Brown's books are amazing. Dr. Brene Brown, if you don't know her, please Google her. Her videos on TED Talks, YouTube, these are amazing. The one I'm reading right now is The Gifts of Imperfection. I would highly recommend that. I'm forgetting the titles right now, subhanAllah, but any of Dr. Brene Brown, that's B-R-E-N-E Brown, I would highly recommend. How can you frequently remind yourself that what is occurring is for the best and detach from negativity? On top of that, given the media that always scares us, how much time do you recommend on viewing news coverage? So what I've decided to do for myself is I just slide my phone to the right and I look to see any of the updates on news. If something appears to be sound, I will click on it. If not, I just exit out. We all know the main things about this pandemic. It's spread by physical contact and sometimes by sneezing or coughing. So giving that social distancing, we need to do that. We also know that a lot of hospitals are overwhelmed. So I usually go by what do I know about this and what new do I need, anything new that I need to learn. At this point, I don't see anything new that we need to learn. We just socially need to distance. If you're having the symptoms, calling the numbers that are advised. But beyond that, all this constant streaming of the virus and looking at all of these things, ask yourself, is this really helping me? Is this beneficial for me? If not, how do I just exit out of it? And that's going to be something that is going to take some time and some effort, but it's worthwhile for our own personal well-being at the end of the day. So I don't see it being something that's beneficial for me. So I've limited my access to a lot of this coverage. And that's how I detach. Anything, if I'm in a group that seems to be very negative, I will leave or I will mute that group if it's important in some situations. So you have to figure out for yourself what's best. Soon a special webinar on coping skills, keep up positivity and sample timetable. Okay. Yes, I will be, inshallah, doing a workshop on scheduling and how we can work around our children and block scheduling and all of that. I will also be doing a workshop on coping skills and how to cope with anxiety in these times. And positivity, I did one for students. Maybe I'll do one again, inshallah, just for the general public. How do you notice the fake news about COVID-19? Let me just look at the time, inshallah, to make sure that I'm not holding you guys beyond slide. We have about 4 more minutes. Fake news, we know all the channels that are fake news. Follow the CDC, look at what their recommendations are, and that's not a news channel. Just go online, look at the CDC recommendations. I would leave it at that. Sometimes CNN, but beyond that, it's not even about fake news or real news. Is it beneficial for you to constantly keep looking at these things? Or is it just upping your anxiety? And that's something only you can answer for yourself. And if it's creating more frustration, worry, and all of that for you, then this is possibly something that you don't need to follow or need to keep up with. I'm here for whoever needs a friend, inshallah. Gentleman is here for whoever needs a friend, inshallah. Oh, that's Sister Fatima Ali. So if you're a sister and you need a friend, Sister Fatima Ali, our head school teacher, would love to be your friend. Sister Dune. How we can apply for unemployment. So you would just go to Maryland's unemployment website and you would I would not recommend calling right now because of the high call volume. But if you go there, there's an application you can fill out, and then you email it to them. Inshallah, you fill it out and you don't email it, I'm sorry, and you submit it, and then they will be in contact with you via mail, and they will ask either more questions or not. And I believe right now they've upped it to about $600 per week. Once again, it's based off of how much you were making prior to unemployment. جزاكم الله خيرا. جزاكم الله خيرا. آمين وإياك. Once again, جزاكم الله خيرا all for joining. I hope I answered all of your questions, and if I didn't, please do forgive me. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.